everybody, it's Kira with Bookstaglamkira, and I'm here to go over my reading wrap up for the month of July. I read a total of 12 books in the month of July, which is a little bit higher for me. I tend to read about 8 or 9 books a month, and the reason being a couple things. First of all, I did go on vacation in July, and so there was 1 week that I was on vacation and I read a total of 4 books, so that certainly helped my count. I also picked up some smaller short story reads, which I'll show you here in a little bit, just kind of trying some different things and didn't want to overly commit to any long books this month. So I will start with the books that I read during vacation, but I'm not going to go into detail just because, again, go check out my reading vlog on them. I really talk about them in depth. The first one I read on vacation was Battle of the Bookstores by Ali Brady. I really enjoyed this one, and again, just a short synopsis. It kind of reads as a modern day You've Got Mail. Not quite enemies to lovers, but in a forced enemies to lovers situation. So I think I gave it 5 stars in my reading vlog. The more I think about it, I'm like, oh, okay, maybe it's 4.5, 5, but either way, this book was for me and I really enjoyed it. The next book that I read on vacation was the latest in the Lori Gilmore series, and that's the Strawberry Patch Pancake House. Again, these are just great seasonal reads. There's nothing that's like out of this world amazing about them, but they're just light, almost like a palate cleanser, and so I will continue to read this series. So again, this is the latest. She has another one coming out that has like gingerbread in the title, and then just recently got announced the new one that comes out in 2026, and I apologize, I don't recall the name, but go check it out. This one in particular I didn't love as much as the other ones just because I had some issues with the male main character. But again, I'm gonna stick with it. I gave this 3 stars. The next one I read on vacation, I actually picked up while I was on vacation. It hadn't been on my radar, but it sounded good, and I'm glad I picked it up. The Second Chance Convenience Store by Kim Ho Youn, and it is just shy of 200 pages. So I would recommend this one if you are trying to get caught up on your reading goal for 2025. Just a quick, easy, short read. And I really enjoyed this. It would have been a 5-star for me, but I did not connect with the main character's backstory. The backstory just did not connect for me. It was kind of confusing at parts even, but I just loved the connection during the present day story. And then the last one I read on vacation was the latest by Freya Sampson, and that is the Busybody Book Club. I've enjoyed her other ones. This one unfortunately fell flat for me. It was there were a lot of parts of the story going on at once and just messy, busy. And so I was just having a hard time, and I felt like if you're a person that you want the loose ends wrapped up, I felt like not everything got wrapped up. So unfortunately I gave this one 3 stars. All right, then next I'm going to talk about 4 arcs that I read in the month. So thank you publishers for these advanced reader copies. I believe all have come out, maybe just one that hasn't released yet. The first one I want to talk about is the latest by Ellen Marie Wiseman, and that is The Lies They Told. This one came out at the end of July 29th, and similar to if you've read others by her, she writes historical fiction and she really gets to the emotion, to the impact. And the fact that these are all based on true stories, it just rips you apart. I'm still thinking about this book, and I will be for a while. So you're following this family right at the beginning. You're just immediately in the boat with them. They are in the bowels of a boat. It's a family, a young mother with a 2-year-old, and the young mother's mother and the young mother's brother are all on this boat in the bowels in this disgusting situation. They are trying to get to a better life. They are traveling from Germany to America, where they are told that they have some I think it's just distant relatives. I don't remember the specifics of where at in the family tree they are, but are told that they have an opportunity for work and for a home and just to get a better situation than what they have in Germany. And so, again, not spoiling it, but just talking about the different things that you go through. There's definitely sterilization. There's going through the process of being reviewed and being considered to even step into America and be given that opportunity. It's just a disgrace. It's, during that part in history, which this did happen, in certain parts of the world, there are still legal sterilization. So, historical rabbit hole to take you down. But in addition to that, just talking about people and their intelligence level and saying that they only want the best in America. Like, it's just all very devastating. And then there's like children being taken away, and there's obviously a lot of grief and loss, and just not having independence and not having the opportunities that they thought they were going to have. So anyway, I'm trying really hard not to spoil this, but absolutely pick this one up. It will be with you for a long time. The next arc I want to talk about, I actually took a chance. I've never really read a book of essays before, and so I was given an opportunity here with a collection of essays called I Want to Burn This Place Down by Maris, I think it's Kreisman. And that came out July 1st. I wasn't sure what to expect, just because, again, I hadn't really read a book of essays. It was a little different than what I thought based on the synopsis, but a lot of, I will say it's a political book. So just know that going in. It talks about a young adult and just kind of how she, to be completely honest, is, she's always been a rule follower. She's always done good in school and, done things according to the plan, right? If you do this, then you will get a job. If you do this, you will have a nice house. And just realizing how much of a disappointment America has been for her, and how she's found that it doesn't always pay to be the rule follower and to be, on the straight and narrow. So I enjoyed it. I do plan on giving essays and short stories. I plan to continue with those. So this was a nice little change for my typical reading. So I gave this one 3.5 stars. The next one, the arc that I read, was The Art of Vanishing. This one sounded really cool. And this one is by Morgan Page. It came out July 1st as well. It kind of is a cross between like Mary Poppins with jumping into the chalk paintings with Bert, and almost like a night at the museum. So the main setting is this art museum, and it's just that. There's this whole concept, magical realism of this girl that can transition from the real world into these paintings. And then I will say there are elements of COVID in here. So it talks about what that looked like when everything was shut down and people being in masks and things like that. So it's very subtle. It's not over the top. I think it was done very well. The rest of the book, however, I think it didn't hit the mark. I really liked the idea and the concept of this storyline, but it just didn't execute for me. So unfortunately, it was 3 stars. I had high hopes for this one. And then the last arc that I read for the month was called The Incredible Kindness of Paper. So this one's a magical realism fiction, and it kind of takes what we would think of as a fortune cookie, but puts it into like origami paper flowers. And so this young woman, she, if I'm remembering right, was recently let go from her job at a school, and you can tell that she just wants to bring joy to people. She actually gives me kind of a Jess Day from New Girl vibe. I just envisioned her when I was reading about this girl, all the way down to kind of her personality and her clothing and her attire, as well as just her again, her willingness and ability to make friends with everybody and just to brighten their day. And so she starts to make these flowers and put these positive notes inside of them to brighten people's day, and it grows. And so it's a really cute story, and I was just kind of like, oh, okay, this is fine. I'm enjoying my reading experience, but it's just so. I love that ending. It's so cheesy and so over the top, but I loved that ending. So it got a point, a 0.5% higher on the star rating, and I gave it 3.5 stars. And then some others that I read in the month. I read the sequel to The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst. And that one was The Enchanted Greenhouse. I don't tend to be a series girl, and I think the reason is just because I get so invested in the first one that it is rare that the second or third, however long, top the first book for me. So obviously when I read the first one, I did not know it was going to be a series at the time, but I enjoyed it so much that I'm like, well, might as well give it a shot. Enchanted Greenhouse, I gave it 3.5. I mean, it was fine, but again, I didn't feel like I was as sucked in as I was with the first one. It is great if you did enjoy The Spell Shop. We have some repeat characters. We get a little bit of like a prequel feel of it and how things came to be. So that's cute that it connects. But I actually started physically reading this, and I was kind of just spacing off, and then I started it on audio, and it's like, okay, I'm kind of into it now, but didn't love it. So 3.5 stars on that. Another one that I read was The Expat Affair by Kimberly Beale. This is the first one that I've read by her. She has quite a few other thrillers. And so this one, I went in blindly. I got a book box bundle from a local bookstore that had partnered with the Killer Authors. So Kara, Kimberly, and Heather. So go check them out. I love their Killer Author podcast. But so I bought the combo pack just so I could give her a shot. And it was just so for me. I mean, the setting isn't quite what I go for with my thrillers. We have a female main character, and she meets a guy just out and about, complete stranger. They end up hooking up, and the next morning he is dead in the bathroom. And so it's very fast paced. So if you are looking for a fast paced thriller, I highly recommend this. But again, just the setting for me, it kind of has to do with like 3D printed diamonds and the wealthy and just kind of you can't trust anybody sort of circumstance. So unreliable characters, and again, fast pace is definitely what this would be, but I don't know, I didn't really connect with the characters, so I gave this 3 stars. The next one I read is actually a book club pick for one of the book clubs I'm in, and that is The Little Liar by Mitch Albom. You can see I've tabbed a little bit, which I don't do very much. There were a lot of great quotes in here. I actually enjoyed more than what I marked because I had to switch to the audio for a little bit just based on what I had going on in life. But I think I've only read one other by Mitch Albom, and that was Tuesdays with Maury. I enjoy it. I think I'm going to pick up more by him. This particular one is historical fiction, and even in this little book, it packs a punch. It really gets you with all the feels, just about families that are trying to escape, the Nazis, and just, again, it's short, quick chapters, but it really gets you in the emotions. So go check him out. And then the last one that I read was a short story on Kindle. I finally read The Fall Risk by Abby Jimenez, and that was adorable. It was exactly what I needed. It was a great little summer read. It's about 2 characters that are kind of in a forced proximity, even though they're not really forced. So they are in what I would say is like an apartment complex, and something about the only thing that's weird about this is the whole thing that gets them together is that their stairs get taken out of their apartment. So they don't really have a way down other than with a ladder. And the male main character had recently injured his foot, so I think he's in a boot or something. And the female main character just, for other reasons, just doesn't want to leave her apartment. And so, again, this is a short story. So there's others in the collection by different rom-com authors. I just picked up this one because I love Abby Jimenez. But it was a really sweet story. Like, there's even just parts about how they're kind of getting to know each other that just make you smile. It's super cute. So for me, I gave it 4.5 stars. And this actually, I have read all of her books except for the other short story called The Situationship. So I've got to get that read and then I'm caught up. But that was a really cute read. All right, there's my wrap up. I did want to say, if you're following along, yes, I did miss one of the books that I pulled for the TBR Jar Picks My Reads. I picked up Infinite Fates and it just wasn't vibing for me. Maybe it's more of a fall read, but I did read the other books and did great with that. But unfortunately, Infinite Fates is still on my shelf. So let me know what your favorite book of the month for July was, and if you have found some short stories or essays that you've enjoyed, I'd love to hear what you're reading and if there are some that I should go check out. Thank you so much for watching. Have a nice day.